This is Investment Perspectives with Brad Kimes. Daily live streaming interactive featuring Mrs. Backup. Subscribe, hit the notification, smash the likes. Now, here's Backup Brad Kimes. Come on in.
Welcome back to Investment Perspectives, everybody. I'm Brad Kimes. You can follow me at Backup Bradley above, and all the information that we're talking about here. Big shout out to Doc Callum, who actually sent me this interview, this fireside chat that happened yesterday, June 15th, with Marcus Treacher on ZN Group YouTube channel. And this is Senior VP of Customer Success, Marcus Treacher, and ZN Chairman, Michael Maninelli. And shout out to him for a fantastic conversation that they had here. I'm going to take you through time marker points for some great responses to some great questions here that Marcus has. And you are going to love the answers that we get here. He asked him to describe what he feels about this. It's like an open internet model about RippleNet and what they're doing. He talks about the different layers and how to understand and think of RippleNet and the protocols, which is remarkable. He asked him about Bitcoin. Is it similar to Bitcoin? You're going to love his answer. And so many other things. He asked him, what's the largest value you can send? And you're going to absolutely love that answer as well. So let's start moving through this and so many more things. He's asked about whether there will be ETFs on XRP. Oh my goodness, it's so good. Let's go ahead and get into this thing and start going through it. Right here is a moment where he is talking about the ISO 20022 technology and why they decided to build out with that standard. Let's hear this answer and then quickly move through all of these.
We give back to ISO 20022 is advice, help, suggestions about how the standard can be extended into a truly internet world and into the kind of cryptographic element that really underpins Ripple. So kind of giving and benefiting both ways, if you like, from Ripple's membership of ISO.
So he's just giving the quick foundational answer of why they're using ISO 20022. It's the standard, it's what they're building around, and it's obviously what all the payment networks are going to be using as a standard. So that's going to be beneficial to them in the long term. Let me quick now jump to 17 minutes here in this area. Some of these start markers might not be exactly perfect, but you will get the gist of what's happening here.
The impact, that's what we're after. And we're applying our tech and our know-how to achieve the impact, which is frictionless cross-border payments globally.
Okay. We've got a lot of questions, so I'm going to ask you to kind of tighten up. And on this first discussion point, Douglas Andrews, who knows a bit about this, is asking, do you have any plans to expand into China? And if so, what are the issues?
Listen.
Yeah, we're very keen to expand to China. Again, the geopolitical situation needs to soften, but we are very much prepared to move in and do work in China. We do transact with some Chinese nodes right now. I think in future you'll see a lot more of that as things become a little bit more open, hopefully.
So acknowledging that they are already transacting with entities in China, and they hope to see that fall into a better place and be more open in the future. I'm telling you, this interview is remarkable. Let's move to, and I'm skipping over some things, but let me get to the heart of this stuff here at 20 minutes, and I'll just lead in a little before here. Let's hear.
Yeah, it would be great to do, but right now, if we focus in on just that cross-border payment challenge, that's how you make this impact. That's how you really help your customers. Switching on to the latency question, it's a really good point. We believe very strongly it is not possible to put the world onto a blockchain. The world is too big. There are too many people, too many companies, too many events. You're never going to keep up with that with any algorithm you have on a blockchain.
Listen to this.
So that's why for the full network that moves information and moves money between different counterparties worldwide, the only way we could scale up to something that's world ready was to adopt the open internet model, where we use cryptography to coordinate ledgers globally, and that is infinitely scalable. Below that, we're using classic blockchain, the Ripple design that supports the XRP digital asset is one of consensus very high volume, so we can use that for delivering liquidity. If you think about liquidity, the classic Swift MD202, the liquidity volume is much lower than the payment volume. In the old Swift model, you have the Filex carrying vast amounts of individual payments made to be, the Fiend 103, very high volume, underpinned by the 202, which is low volume.
By the way, really quickly, and to interject into his point here, if you're not aware, the total circulating supply last night came up by $228 million in the last 36 hours. Shout out to Hiding Out Now for keeping his eye on that. And I know I caught it too, but I want to give him credit because I love when people catch this stuff, and I want to share the props on that. $228 million total increase in the last 36 hours of the total circulating supply of XRP. Why is that important to me? Because I feel like when they add to the total circulating supply, they are preparing to soak up more liquidity demand. And that to me is remarkable, because some people think, yeah, but if they're soaking up more liquidity demand, that's keeping the price down because they just put more onto it. The point is to keep a tight trading range, not to keep the price down, but to keep a tight trading range, giving a reliable trading range for the people that actually hold and use it. Not the market participants, but the market makers. Let's keep going here. And let's go to 2145 for this next one here.
How's the 3-year transaction fast?
Well, XRP settles in microseconds. It's incredibly fast. And
XRP settles in microseconds. How about that? So apparently this 3 to 4 second settlement time is actually probably held up because of the end-to-end legacy that may be connected to it.
It was designed from the beginning to be a very different animal to Bitcoin. The founders of the XRP model saw the problem that Bitcoin had very early on. So the actual XRP is very fast.
Because you're not doing mining or anything. You've basically got a member network.
It's purely, it's a consensus model using a validator network. So it's not a mined model in the classic sense.
There you go. And let's go ahead and get to 24 minutes here and catch the next question or next response that comes in here. Okay. I might be a little early on the spot, but let's hear this.
We found that the banking world works at a certain pace only. Banks are large organizations. They move at a fairly slow pace.
So he's talking about the slow pace of the banking world, which is no surprise. But listen what's interesting here about what he says about the characteristics of remittance companies and banks and how they're using the network. Listen to this.
And we wanted to have a very, very big impact. And we also found that a number of fintechs are moving very, very quickly and building really powerful payment networks. There's some very famous ones like Alipay, and Payce you may have heard of, and PayPal, TransferWise, close to home in the UK. So right now, about half of the customers that we work with and have on the network are payment companies or their exchanges, and half are banks. And how it's shaking out is that banks tend to be receivers. So they tend to be more comfortable as FI providers taking traffic in, agency clearing into like UK chaps or faster payments, whereas payment companies are much more likely to be the send side. So that's what's kind of shaking out. Our view is that the payment market is getting broader and broader, and we think there's room for all kinds of players, from the big classic money center banks right through to the small emerging market startups. But again, 50-50. Which is not how we started, but kind of where things are moving now in the network.
Okay, now let's move there. Pretty powerful statements. He's being very candid here, and I certainly appreciate it. Now let's listen to this. about the swift response, remittances, and small medium enterprises. This tells me that they're directly on target here. Let's hear this.
And so there are a few things going on. You're not at the. Let me say, Liz Russell's curious. Is this retail or corporate? And does it link to Swift or compete with it? And in fact, Lenny Schrank equally has a question here. How does Ripple compete with Swift's ongoing GPI initiatives, the Global Payments Initiative, moving towards tracking and near instantaneous payments there? So both trying to understand the relationship between Swift and the corporate world.
Listen to this.
Certainly. So our focus is on the retail sector and also the SME sector. And that's because they feel most pain in the world today. We've created is very effective at the very high end as well. So we do have banks and payment companies sending, what you call corporate traffic across Ripple. Works very, very well. Where we're finding most traction is on the remittance world. Wallet to wallet is really becoming very, very, very powerful and appealing. And in the SME, small and middle-sized enterprise world. And to answer Lenny's question about Swift, if you look at innovators, you read the famous book, The Innovator's Dilemma. The innovator always dominates the space that the incumbent hasn't really paid attention to. They perfect their technology there, and then they come into that, almost like the home territory when it's too late for the incumbent to react. And the kind of similar things happening here. So Swift.
Wow. I mean, he's telling you the playbook and what their war room strategy is. The innovator dilemma. I mean, that is remarkable. Let's keep moving. This is just a very, very good interview. I have to say, shout out to Michael Maninelli again and ZN Group. Okay, let me keep moving here because I want to take you to this next spot where he's asked the question, is XRP like Bitcoin? Essentially, I'm paraphrasing, but let's get to it. Okay, 1 second here.
Coexist in a big marketplace the same way that we coexist with Visa, MasterCard, HomeSend.
Okay. And he's explaining there that they coexist in the same market as Swift does, and they're not trying to take them down, which we all know is a load of bull. Absolutely, they're designed to press them to accept the innovation and the technology. Let's keep going.
Alipay. That's how we look at ourselves. We've got a pretty good relationship with Swift and Gary. Ultimately, I think the model we're following is the future. I do feel strongly about that, and that's just, I guess, my personal outlook.
Well, I share some of that because I believe what you've proven is that a decentralized approach can work and get through the regulation and attract customers. We'll come on to some of those questions. I'd like some pointed answers to some of these. Given that you said you are not using Bitcoin for the transaction part, Chris Davis is curious, what is the relevance, if any, of Bitcoin to Ripple?
Listen.
None.
What is the relevance to Bitcoin, if any? None. Oh, I can't help it. That is just incredible right there. Let's listen to this.
Okay. Liz Thrussell is curious about what is the largest value you can transmit?
Infinite.
What's the largest value that you can send? Infinite. What's the largest value you can send without even batting an eye? Infinite. All right, let's keep this going. It's just good. It just keeps getting better, I tell you. Okay, so let's move now to, right here. And check out this response here.
Narissa is curious. She's may be wrong, but
this is referencing Brazil.
Is it expensive to join the Ripple network?
No.
How much is it?
No. To join RippleNet, the membership is free. It's a membership. It's not within Ripple. It's outside Ripple. We facilitate it, but it's a free group. And our software, well, I can't give quotes over the chat line, but it's very, very competitive. Again, the reason is we haven't got to charge back for any massive operation center. If you think about the internet model, it's far, far, far more efficient than these great big central hubs that legacy companies have. And Ripple runs on cloud, so we have a bank in Brazil, Rendimento, which is happily running Ripple on the cloud, which again takes a whole layer of cost out of the network, which you're even paying for any server.
I want to make a key point here about the cloud and RippleNet. RippleNet works in the cloud just like Amazon Web Services, Google Cloud, and Microsoft Azure. We have seen that lawmakers have urged over the last couple years to make these cloud services systemically deemed and designated systemically important financial market utilities because they're non-financial, non-banking, non-financial institutions. And they see a gap in the liability that needs to be covered. And they also see the demand to continue to push towards this new innovation and technology because of the cost efficiency and the speed and everything else that comes along with it that Marcus Treacher is talking about. All right, let me continue on with this right here.
The whole thing is virtual.
Chris David again. I categorize this question as Bitcoin. He also wanted to understand blockchain. That you're running on a blockchain as a data structure and logging tool. Is that correct?
Now this is great because he's about to break down how it all works. Listen to this.
Yeah, Ripple. Think of it as a 2 layers. The top layer is a network of peers. Okay, each peer is a different ledger. They're not synchronized. You wouldn't call it a blockchain. It's connected together using the cryptography that you normally find in blockchain, the hash validation. And just using that tech alone, the magic is you can create immediate delivery of value because you can blockchain synchronize the ledgers on legacy ledgers around the world. That's a real magic dust that gets the globality. Below that is a more classic blockchain that people would recognize who have read up on the blockchain, where it's consensus driven, so it's hyper fast, much faster than Bitcoin, but it's a separate kind of like a blockchain ledger that kind of sits below the surface of Ripple. And it's that part below, that's where XRP is used to deliver liquidity on point. The very important thing of it in those 2 ways. Otherwise, you're going to get confused in how you talk about Ripple.
Now, that's a great layout of how to think about Ripple and RippleNet, actually. All right, so now let's also go to the next thing. You're going to be very surprised about this. Can you send payments anywhere in the world? Listen to his response. You'll be very surprised.
Liz Thrussell again is interested. Can you make a payment anywhere in the world at the moment? And are there price differentials according to destination?
Yeah, good question, Liz. Not yet. So our network is only as big as the customers that we connect into and clear through. So right now we clear directly in 45 countries, and then through a number of RippleNet members like Numa, for example, head office in Singapore, who are aggregators like Earthport, for example. We can touch many, many other countries, but the way we're heading, I would think by mid-2021, we'll have, to all intents and purposes, complete global coverage. One thing to watch, we do have a great pipe into MoneyGram, which we have a relationship with, which gives us a cash payout in virtually every country in the world. And we're looking to build that up and plug that into the RippleNet network, as per my slide in the intro, this year.
Pretty remarkable and candid answer there, I have to say. It's pretty remarkable, and you can see the work that still needs to be done. By 2021, he sees us being able to send payments anywhere in the world. So that shows you the not only what they've gone from, the idea to what they've come to today, but how much further they need to go. So 43 countries at the moment. All right, let's keep going. This next question is very, very interesting. He is asked if they work with or have a relationship with Stellar. Let's go to that right now. And here we go right here.
They seem to be more inclusive and not only a network for larger firms. What is your relationship with Stellar, if any?
We don't really hear much about them. So beyond the fact that they originated, go back in time in the same stable, they're a very different animals. There is no, global governance model for Stellar. The Ripple is unique in creating that. There isn't the global bank network that we have. The Interledger model that we have isn't there. So it's very much an offshoot from an earlier time, and we don't really come close to them or really see much of them in a day-to-day work with our customers.
Very, very candid answer and very good to note. Okay, let's go now to 3940 here and catch this answer. I'll just start it right here. Here we go.
Powerful.
KYC AML.
Following on that compliance bit, Alex Powell is quite curious about your level of KYC and AML compared to a typical traditional payment network.
Hi, Alex. We rely very much on the KYC of the Ripple users, the customers that make up our network. So Ripple creates the tools for plugging into these compliance systems. We are looking at enabling compliance providers, screening providers to plug into Ripple in the same way that Swift plugs into screening tools that it then offers to its users. But in the current legal framework, no matter what we provide to the banks and payment companies that use Ripple, ultimate ownership of the validity of a scan has to remain with the regulated entity, the bank or the payment company.
Excellent layout of the KYC AML and how they interact with that. Okay, now let's move forward now to this next question, which is really, really great, which he's asked if he sees a ETF for XRP. Let's go here. Love his answer.
Quite interested is might XRP sit in an ETF, for example, as gold does?
I imagine so. I think the potential of XRP is huge because it's so uniquely designed for the needs of exchanging value. Whereas Bitcoin is very much a value holding design, XRP is a value transmission design. And I think what will happen is you get usage to build an XRP, you'll find layers of governance and layers of risk management around the asset. Now, that's not unique. I think with digital assets, as they're becoming much more mainstream, there is a common theme of the world kind of getting their heads around what these animals are, how to manage them differently, and how to think about the risk and how to think about smoothing over volatility. So I think in general, you'll see a lot more structure around digital assets as they become more mainstream.
Very, very solid answer there, talking about the ETF, and he believes that we will see something like that in the future. Okay, I'm going to skip ahead because he asked him about the class action lawsuit, and obviously he gives no comment. It's above his pay grade, he says, and it's not something he can speak to. Okay, so here's a question at 4235 asking about banks using XRP. Kind of scoots the answer a little bit. Let's take a listen again.
By John Callup is interested. Do you see banks using XRP in the next year? And again, the obstacles, which I think is there. And that leads to kind of a question for me, which is how should people be measuring you? Particularly if we have you back on the show.
Well, I could do that by chronological order. So first off, we're very much seeing a network effect. So our volume is doubling quarter on quarter. I know we're in a funny world now, COVID land, and we're still building volume, we're still growing volume at a time where many companies are pulling back and on hold. So we are very much on a roll. And
that's a key point right here. In the middle of a pandemic, when most businesses have been deliberately shut down and cannot operate, they are thriving and growing. Do not lose point of that fact, because when you hear people say, "Oh, well, they may not IPO or they may not do this because the pandemic has jammed everything up," yeah, well, he just told you that that's not the case. Their business is suited to excel in moments like this. designed specifically to pull the world out of a hole just like this. So let's keep this going.
We're very much building momentum. So
what are the volumes in transaction numbers and payment values?
Yeah, again, I don't talk openly about that, but I can tell you it's doubling quarter by quarter.
Okay.
Which is great. And also, kind of taking it through the, I guess, the list of questions. So in terms of the blocking traditionally was just the ability of some of the banks we work with to kind of like incorporate what we've created and get the end-to-end running quickly. And also some countries where clearing just takes time, that blunts a lot of the effect of the high-speed Ripple network. So we've had to focus much more on plugging into the high-speed clearing countries, which thankfully are getting a bigger percentage globally. So that's always one to worry about. The second is to make sure you're working with someone that can really bring the value of Ripple to life. So there's no use plugging Ripple into a branch network. You don't get the speed. You want it plugged into an app or a machine to get the speed. And that's very important. Third question, Michael. I'm showing my age.
Okay, so let's move here again. He doesn't quite really drill down on the will banks use XRP, and I think it's a conversation he's not really looking to discuss. He's also asked how they measure themselves, and then he talks about, through the growth over time, so we're not going to revisit that again. I want to go to 4519 because here he talks about clearly not being affected by the pandemic here. So let's go to this right quick here. Here we go.
What is, and the answer may be not at all, but what impact has COVID-19 had on you?
Listen to this answer.
Generally, yeah, not a great deal. So we've seen our customers who are digitally first accelerate their volume, whereas others like the branch network banks are going to pull back a little bit. But overall, we are driving volume and we're driving growth throughout COVID-19.
Unbelievable. Again, reassuring the fact that the excuse of things aren't going well because there's been an unexpected crisis, health crisis and this, that, and the other, it hasn't stopped them. I think this is important to drive this point home. It has not stopped them, and in fact it has accelerated their business and what they're doing. For the demand to be digital and the demand for people not to be in contact accelerates this. Just like you've seen businesses like Zoom and Skype and Google Hangouts, all these platforms be used a lot more because they've been in demand in a time like this. Imagine what digital technology, the distributed ledger technology and RippleNet and XRP and all the things that they have been working on can do to accelerate the innovation process because of a crisis situation like this. Okay, let's move forward now to the last question here at 4635. So let's do this real quick. Here we go.
Payments. Tim Coleman again is asking if blockchains can be used for many purposes, including payments, internet value, etc. Is there an ultimate use case? And the argument I've seen in a few of the comments and questions here is really, I think, looking at the idea that there's a middleware layer. You're providing effectively an integrated network of people using a distributed, effectively, messaging system to transfer value and commands. And that's kind of your space. Do you see that as really the big blockchain area, or one of the very big blockchain areas? And if it's not the one, but there are multiple, what might some of the other areas be?
And then he loses sound here for just a second, and then it comes back, and it sounds like he's giving away
sound.
Yes. It appears like he's giving away the secret to the universe while the sound's out. Let's go. Let's keep it going here. It'll come back in a second.
The blockchain model and the old, applying a digital asset in a way that's effective for real-world usage. So I think the way to get the whole blockchain thing running is to tackle cross-border and get that working. And, payments are so fundamental once you've got them in a good place, to the question earlier about loans or maybe compliance or eventually into trade. You can build up through the whole financial stack and then into identity, contract work, from that piece. So I do think we're starting at the right place, and I think this is where you see a lot of the reality element of the blockchain revolution starting to kick in, which is a good thing.
Remarkable conversation in this fireside chat. Again, shout out to Michael Maninelli from ZN Group and Marcus Treacher for such a candid conversation about where they currently are. Some takeaways for me is there's actually none, right, in comparison to Bitcoin, to Marcus Treacher's remarks there. What's the largest value you can send across the network is infinite. And do you see ETFs being on XRP in the future? Yes, he thinks so. And then here we have, has the impact of the pandemic slowed you down? And no, there's no impact. In fact, they've seen an acceleration and a pickup in business because of this. These are just some of the highlights of what's going on in this conversation here, confirming Brazil and everything they're doing there. And by the way, if you haven't gone to the Digital Ledger channel, go there and watch the most recent video I did about Valente Volpay being connected to the bank, which is absolutely hooked to the Fedwire system, their Fedwire system connection. It's going to be in the cloud on Valente's Volpay, which is back-end Ripple technology. Pretty exciting stuff. Check out the Digital Ledger channel. All right, guys, that's going to do it for me. You like the content, hit the like and subscribe. We'll catch you on the next one.